are some of the several tests that we did in order to know what are the properties of protoplasm. So we have here the dispersal system in which in the solution we added half of water, okay, a water half filled and added with the salt. So this is the result. Okay, so what happened here? Did you still see the solute? Okay, so this is again what mixture is being formed in here. And then next is the suspension. Now in suspension, again in a test tube with half-filled water, we added a flour, a pinch of flour. Okay, so this is the result after a minute of putting this aside. So this is now the result. Okay, so as you can see, the flour here, okay, settled at the bottom. Okay, so meaning to say, the water and the flour did not mix. Okay, so what again, mixture is being formed here in the suspension. So in emulsion, so again we have the test tube. Now we fill this up with a 5 ml of ethyl alcohol. Then after that we place a few drops of oil. Okay, and then mix it. Okay, or shake it, and then observe what happened. So the oil here settled at the bottom. Meaning to say they did not mix, so it is immiscible. Okay, and then after that, I put some of this mixture in a beaker which has water. Okay, and then shake it well, and then extract some of a few, okay, mixture and place it in the slide. Okay, so this is the slide with the mixture. When I observed that under the microscope, I saw that there are oil globules. Okay, so all globules are formed when I view that under the microscope. So just state, so we have an agar, okay, that is being placed under the test tube with water. Okay, and then I heated over an alcohol lamp until the agar dissolved. Okay, so what happened? Okay, so it became semi-liquid. Then after this, I placed this in a beaker with tap water. So I put that aside, and then for 20 minutes, what happened is that the semi-liquid here became a semi-solid. It became jelly-like. Okay, and then after this, I reheated again over an alcohol lamp, and what happened? It became again a semi-liquid form. Okay, so meaning to say, one property of protoplasm is that it is a colloidal system. A colloidal system, meaning to say it can undergo reversibility, of course, from solid to liquid or liquid to solid. Of course, depending on the pH and temperature. Okay, now with the monosaccharide, this is again to test the presence of carbohydrates. Okay, now in monosaccharide, I prepared 2 test tubes. Okay, so this is the first test tube and the second test tube. Now in the first test tube, I placed a glucose solution plus 3 to 5 drops of Benedict solution. Then I heated this over an alcohol lamp, and this is what the result. Okay, so it gives off a brick red to brown color. Okay, so muna siya. Okay, and then for the second test tube, I placed starch solution plus Benedict solution, and again heated it over an alcohol lamp, and the result is that there is no change of color. Okay, so it remains blue. Okay, now for the polysaccharide. Okay, so again, I prepared 2 test tubes, okay, labeling it to 1 and 2. Now, for the first test tube, okay, so I placed there a starch solution. While in the second test tube, I placed a glucose solution. Now, both test tubes, okay, I add IKI or the Lugos solution. Now, in the first test tube, with starch solution and the IKI, it gives off a blackish blue in color. Okay, while with the second test tube, okay, the glucose solution plus the Lugos solution or the IKI, no change of color, the same color as that of the IKI, which is like more of yellowish or rusty, okay, in color. Now, what you can observe here in monosaccharide and polysaccharide, okay, so we both use starch solution and glucose solution. In the monosaccharide with the glucose solution plus the Benedict's, it gives off a positive result. We need to say positive for carbohydrates, okay? Also, here in the polysaccharide, with the glucose solution in the polysaccharide plus the IKI, it gives off a negative result. No? There is no change of color. Meaning to say negative for polysaccharide or negative for carbohydrates. While with the second test tube here, okay, with using the starch solution plus the Benedict's, okay, no change of color, meaning to say negative for carbohydrates. While in the polysaccharide using starch solution with the IKI, it gives off a blackish blue, meaning to say indicates a positivity of carbohydrates. Okay, now for the dye test. Okay, so in a test tube, I placed water and added a Sudan for dye. Okay, and then set it for aside and observe. Okay. Now, the result would that where the Sudan 4 dye did not dissolve with water. So, it remains on the surface. Okay, now, here, I added oil. Okay, I added oil. So, this is now with the dye and water and with the oil. Now, what happened here, class, is that the mixture here, okay, becomes bloody red. Okay, so the mixture becomes bloody red upon an additional of oil. And also, the oil plus the dye didn't settle to the bottom, but instead, it remains at the surface, okay, of the water. Okay, now to continue, we will be testing here for the presence of protein. So we have 2 tests. We have the Brewer test and the coagulation test. Now with the Brewer test, in a test tube, we place 2 ml of egg albumin plus 10% of sodium hydroxide. Okay, and then we shook it. Then after a while, we added a copper sulfate, a 1% copper sulfate, until we keep on adding until there will be a change of color. Okay, so there. Okay, so after adding a few amount of copper sulfate, this will be now the result, wherein there is a formation of a ring of purple color or violet color. Okay, now for the coagulation test, okay, so first, okay, so in a test tube, I placed 10 ml of water plus egg albumin. And then I inserted a thermometer. Okay, so when I inserted the thermometer, it was 23 plus or 23 degrees centigrade. Okay, and then the this thermometer did not touch the bottom. Okay, and then we hit this over an alcohol lamp, and we observed that the solid particles were formed at 28 degrees centigrade. Okay, and then we have the another coagulation test in which I prepared two test tubes, and I placed test tube 1, I placed egg albumin plus concentrated hydrochloric acid. Okay, so this is now what happened. It became cloudy and the egg albumin curdled. Okay, and then the other one, the test tube number 2, okay, so again, I placed albumin plus sodium hydroxide, concentrated sodium hydroxide. And this is now the result, where it became transparent or clear. Okay, so now observe between test tube 1 with the HCl and test tube 2 with the sodium hydroxide containing egg albumin.